Hello everyone, I am Heth Nagda, currently a master student at University of Illinois at Chicago. So this is my homework 3 for my course CS441, in which I am creating a distributed computing for conversation between two LLM models, one which I would be running locally and one I would be running on EC2 instance. So for EC2 instance, I would be deploying an EC2 server, an Aka HTTP server, which would ping or which would send requests to Lambda function, which would be via API gateway and using protobuf. So let me take you to my Lambda function first. Yeah, this is my Lambda function. So over here, like, this is the main handler request, which would be getting the protobuf message from Aka HTTP, which I would be hosting on my EC2 server. And this is the protobuf, the proto files, which would generate these contracts in target Scala src managed, and these are the contracts which have been generated by this proto file. Okay, so for running this on Amazon Lambda, we need to just create a jar of it. spt clean compile assembly, and this would create the jar. Once we have created the jar, it would come over in the Scala 2.13 folder in target. This is the jar which has just been created, and we need to upload it to Amazon S3 bucket. You also need to make sure that the S3 and your Lambda function belong to the same region. If it won't be in the same region, then the object won't be pulled by the Lambda function. So I have already uploaded the jar over here. So this is the jar which I have uploaded, and now I'll show you how I created the Lambda function. Okay, we need to copy the URL, the object URL for it. And while creating like the Lambda function, you need to make sure that you create it for Java 11. You can put any name, like I would be putting CS441 Lambda in Scala. I have created it in Scala ARM64, like, because I'm using Mac. And while putting in role, like, you need to make sure that your role has Amazon CloudWatch logs, access to Amazon CloudWatch logs. Also, you need to make sure that it has proper access to bedrock, because it would be invoking the model from bedrock. Okay, I have already created it, and you can just hit create function. I have already created the function, so I will just show what I did in my function. Yeah, so in function, like, once you have created it, you would land in a similar page. You just need to upload from Amazon S3 and put the object URL over here. Once you have put the object URL, you and hit the save button, it would automatically load the jar. And after loading the jar, you need to edit the handler info. So since like my handler exists in this package, which is com.hetnagda.handler, if you say it over here, I will just show you. Yeah, if you see, this is the package which it has the class in it and the handler request. That's it. Once you have done that, you can just test it. So let me go to the test. So this is the test, like, this is the protobuf message which I would be sending to, and test. It would take few seconds because it is decoding and encoding the protobuf. Yeah, see, it's a 200, which is success. And if you see, it returned the response in serialize in base 64 encoding. If you wanna see what the response was, you can just see it over here. There are few reasons, like, this was the question what I asked, why is the sky blue in color, and this was the response. Okay, once you are done with that, we also need to enable our EC2 server. That's a important part. Okay, so what does the EC2 server do over here? The EC2 server is an Arca HTTP server which I would be hosting on my EC2 client. Post hosting that, and once I launch the request from my local conversation agent, it would ping to this EC2 server, and this EC2 server will send the protobuf request to the Amazon API, which would then send the request to Lambda, and it would go to Bedrock, and it would the response would be reversing, tracing back the same path. So for running this, you need to EC2 server sbt clean compile assembly, and the jar would be created. In the meanwhile, I will show you how to create the EC2 instance. And yeah, the important part, we have created the Lambda function, but it's still not accessible. So for making it accessible, we need to create an API gateway for it. So I will show you how to do that. So create API, REST API, build new API, put any name for it, CS441 test. You need to set it to regional and create API. I have already created it, so I will just show you what I did in that. Main prompt. So after creating it, you need to create a resource. So here my resource is prompt, and in that I created a method. So when you go in prompt, you would see this create method. You can just create method, put post. Currently I have post, so it won't give me that. Lambda function which we have named it, which is, I believe, lambda prompt gen, and then you can just create method, and that's it. After creating the method, you would get this invoke URL. I'll just show you how it's in stages. So yeah, you also need to deploy API, create a new stage, name that stage, and deploy. That's it, and your API would be deployed. Once you go to the stages and the stage which you just created, you would have your invoke URL, which you can directly use. So currently I am using this URL over here in my application.conf. This would be sending the EC2 request from my EC2 server. Okay, now where is my EC2? Now creating the EC2 instance. So what I did for EC2 instance is launch an instance from EC2 instances, put any name for it, CS441 EC2 test server. I just took Amazon Linux and gave it around 20 GB allow ports, okay, and gave it 20 GB of space to it, and you can just launch it. Oh yeah, you also need to put a key pair which you would be using to connect. I already created it. You can just create a new pair and name it. It would automatically download it in your serial downloads. So post creating that, there is one crucial step which we need to do. Let me just run my instance. It would take a minute. I think, yeah, it's running. So this is the public IP. Copy it. New window. Okay. Yeah. So this is the command for accessing the EC2 instance. Yes, and you are good. Post going into that, you need to install Java on it. So I already did that. You can just check it, like Java version. I'm having Java 11 already installed in it, and we also need to push the jar. That's an important step to do. So for pushing the jar, I use this code. SCP, which means secure copy, and you need to give it the what do we say, SSH key to it, the server, the jar location. So this is the SSH key location. This is where the jar is currently created, and this is where we need to copy it. This is the EC2 address. So you can just copy it, and once you do that, you would be able to see the file in EC2 home. I already have it. So yeah, post that you just need to run this java jar command, which would just run the java, what do we say, the jar on the EC2 instance. Yeah, the server has started, if you can see. Yeah, now one more thing, like I would be pinging it from my local conversation agent, so I also need to run that. But before that, I just need to port the public IP of my EC2 instance over here. We can like have a similar one single IP every time using the elastic IP, but I have currently not did that part. So yeah, over here you just need to run this code, clean, compile, run. Yeah, currently it's up and running. Okay, and now you can just copy the command. Let me go to my SSH. I've already copied it and kept it ready for testing. Yeah, so over here we can change the maximum turns we need. Like let's keep it 3 itself, and we can just put maximum tokens, which means it would be limiting the LLM's response to it. And currently, like, the export part is the file name which I have provided, so the conversations would be saved in this path. Currently I think I have previous log comments which I will just delete. Okay, and now we will just ping it. If you see the starting dialog, processing with limit of 3 turns, and at the same time you will also be able to see that over here in the EC2 server we already got the request, and cloud has already, like, my Lambda has already sent my request back. We'll just wait for a few minutes. Once the response is completed, we would be able to see a file created over here. Currently 2 iterations have been completed. Sent to cloud API, raw false. Yep, it's running process, successfully sent. Yep, it's done. We got the CSV, Claude and Llama. So this is the conversation which they are having. Yeah, I think that's it for my project. And you also have this response, like, what do we say, the response time posted in this. Yeah, that's it. Also, like, there are 3 more routes which I have created, and you can find those on my GitHub, which I would be linking to this video description, and you can go through that. So these are few commands. Just make sure that you are not pinging it to port 8081 like I had kept it, because when I was trying to deploy it in local, I had one server and one client, like 2 ports being used, 8080 and 8081. So that's the reason it's 8081 over here. Yeah, and you can go through this and use this project. Yeah, thank you.